Welcome, dear friends, to the fourth lecture in the series on the medieval rulers and their religion. Uh, Today, I would like to discuss with you the use of religion or the importance. We discussed in some detail regarding the period of Babur, who is supposed to be one of the most controversial Mughal rulers of this country. In fact, as all of you know, that there are many charges which are put uh, towards him, uh, and we have seen during the previous lecture that possibly Babur was much different from what the story is being created and circulated about him. Uh, as far as Humayun is concerned, his whole time was spent in trying to consolidate his position. He was ultimately thrown out, returned back with the help of the Iranians. But before he could actually get the grasp of things, he slipped from his library and fell to his death. Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar became the third Mughal ruler of the country, the third of the great Mughals. The fact of the matter is that the Mughal Empire was actually established during his period. Babur presided over a very small territory. He was coming from Kabul, so naturally that Afghanistan area was under his control. But then portions of Punjab and certain areas in the plain, northern plains, the Indo-Gangetic basin, he could not go beyond Bihar, and that too during at a time when he died was still in the process of being consolidated. Humayun could never exceed the territory which had been gained by his father. Uh, Although both Babur and Humayun had great pretensions, if you read their accounts, they always called themselves as Padishah, the Padishah of Hindustan. But in fact, the Hindustan which they were holding was very limited. Humayun, in fact, was not holding the Rajputana territory as well, only few places here and there. He was at war with Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. The Afghan remnants were pushing from the side of Bihar, and ultimately they succeeded in getting him out. Even from the Kabul side, his brother, most of the time, Mirza Kamran. In fact, Mirza Kamran had come down up till Lahore. So you may imagine the position of Emperor Humayun. So neither they had a well laid out administration nor an actual territory. The boundaries kept on shifting, kept on changing. At the most, they were rulers, not people who were presiding over great empires. Probably they would have been nothing but for Akbar, the grandson of Babur, who takes the credit of not only consolidating his rule, but also converting the rule into an empire which spanned over almost the whole of the Indian subcontinent. Let us today deal with what happened. You know that Akbar became the king in 1526 and he died in 1605. So it's a long period of 50 years over which he presided over almost the whole of the Indian subcontinent, starting from Kabul down to the Deccan. Now, Akbar is not only the founder of the empire, but he is also supposed to have laid down, you know, a new type of a rule where every citizen of the country, I don't know whether one can call the subjects of that period as citizens or not, but all those who were living in the country, they were tried to be treated in an equal fashion. Thirdly, Akbar is credited to have created a ruling elite which was very different, a ruling class which was very different from that which existed during the time of his father and grandfather. It was Akbar who created a cosmopolitan nobility through which the Mughals are known till date. In fact, that was one of the unique features of the Mughal Empire. You know, had you gone to the Ottomans, most of the Ottoman nobility were Ottomans themselves. The Turks. And if you were in the Anatolian territory, you would find certain Christians who had been converted into slaves and then serving the empire. Under the Safavids, once again, the nobility consisted of only one type of people. A, the Iranians, and B, mostly the Shiite Iranians, and none else. But it was under Akbar that Mughals came to acquire a nobility in which almost all type of race they were represented there. They were Iranis, they were Turanis, they were Georgians, they were Christians, they were Hindus, they were Shias, they were Sunnis, they were elites, the Rajputs, they were Hindus of lower origin, all type of people. You may belong to any religion, any culture, you may belong to any place, an Armenian, even a European, If you had the skill, you were employed in the bureaucracy, and you had the chance to rise in the higher echelons of the Mughal society. In other words, Akbar is one of those personalities who shaped not only the history of the country, but also changed the way the country was being ruled from the earlier periods. It would be wrong to say that it was Akbar who started recruiting the non-Muslims. In the earlier lectures, we have already seen that this was not the case. We have seen that as early as Alauddin Khilji, the non-Muslim professionals were getting state services. We have seen that under the Tughlaqs, a large number of Hindus had been recruited. We know that when after the classical Sultanate period, when the lesser known empires, the Sayyids, the Lodhis, they came to rule, even larger number of Hindus were included in the service. So much so that one of the first revolts which Akbar had to face soon after assuming the throne was from a person whose name was Hemu Bakal. He was one of those who were supporting the earlier dynasty. He was one of the nobles of the earlier dynasty. He was a noble of Islam Shasur. And it was he under whose leadership a challenge was, a very serious challenge. It was Hemu's attack on Delhi was one of the most serious challenges to the very existence of the Mughals. And we know that the Lodhis had immense support of the indigenous people, both Hindus and Muslims. So it was not Akbar who started recruiting them. But in spite of what we have studied, the reign of Akbar once again saw that not only more and more non-Muslims were recruited, but something else was done for the first time. The marriage alliances. The marriages which took place between the Mughals and the Rajputs. That was happening for the first time. One may keep on arguing whether it was on an equal level or not, whether the Mughals themselves gave their daughters to the Rajputs or not. That's a question which may worry some of us. Granted that it was not a marriage of equality, but all the same, these political alliances through marriages brought the non-Muslim population of India closer to the rulers of the period. Now, there are a large number of modern day historians who have tried to grapple with religion under Akbar. You have at the foremost historians like Iqtidar Alam Khan. Iqtidar Alam Khan has written a series of articles, but his most important article is the nobility and the religious policy of Akbar, which has to be consulted if one has to understand what Akbar stood for. Then we have the writings of people like M. Athar Ali. He wrote a paper on Akbar and Islam. He also wrote a paper, Akbar and Sulhekul. There is a whole seminar which was held on this very theme, edited by Professor Irfan Habib, in which you will get a very important article which was contributed by Professor Shirin Muswi. And then, of course, we have a number of traditional scholars, starting with Vincent Smith and coming up till Professor Nurul Hasan, who wrote on the Mahzar of 1579. Apart from that, there are many, many others, including myself, who have done work on this theme. The synopsis which we have at Aligarh tries to enumerate, and you can download that synopsis from the Department of History website, and you can have a look at the details of the reading material which is suggested for this topic. For all those who are students of BA honors, they need not go to all the details. Confine yourself to the article of Iqtidar Alam Khan, which I just cited, M. Athar Ali, and Shirin Muswi. I think that should be enough for you to pass your exams. In fact, enough for you to comprehend what we are going to talk and what we are going to discuss today. Now, most of these historians, especially Iqtidar Alam Khan, have this habit of, making things easy for the students to understand. And this is done by dividing the period into various phases. Now, for example, if you read Iqtidar Alam Khan's article, he mentions 3 phases. If you ask me, there are actually 2 very broad phases. The period from 1560, I'm not going to take the period 15, when Akbar actually came to the throne, 1556. When Akbar came to the throne, all of you know that he was 14, 15 years of age. He was being guided by Bairam Khan. So one can attribute whatever policy decision was taken to be that of Bairam Khan, not of Akbar. And after the overthrow of Bairam Khan, you know that Smith talks about a petticoat government. The term is very pejorative, it's wrong. One should never use such terms. But suffice to say that after Bairam Khan left the scene, power was assumed by a coterie which was led by Mahamanaga. Ultimately, Mahamanaga was done away with after the incident of Adham Khan. You would remember that Adham Khan rebelled against Akbar. He entered the fort, killed the Wakil, who was the foster father of Akbar, and the enraged emperor threw Adham Khan from the top floor of his palace. And soon after his death, Mahamanaga, in fact, became a recluse. It is said that she went for Hajj and then ultimately died. And now, when this incident took place in 1560, it is from then on that Akbar assumed the real authority. And that is why, whenever we are dealing with Akbar's policies, we always try to look from 1560 onwards. क्योंकि अब 1560 onwards जो भी डिसीजन लिए जाएंगे वो अकबर के अपने होंगे. And that is why the first phase, if for people like me, starts from 1560 up till 1579. And then the second phase, 1580, we would come to what happened in 1580. There was something very significant which took place in 1580. And from 1580 onwards, down to Akbar's death, there was a very different kind of a policy, which is period from 1579 to, or 1580 to 1605. Now, of 1605, Akbar would not have been treated as Akbar-e-Azam. Now, one thing which by now must be clear to you is that when we are mentioning the phases, whether it is a two-phase approach, which I just mentioned, or the one which is given by Iqtidar Alam Khan, where he talks about 1556 to 1575 being the first phase, then 1575 to 80 being the second phase, and then after the whatever happened in 1580, 80 to 1605 being the third phase. Or you take what Iqtidar Alam Khan very ably tries to show in his paper. Actually, there were three phases. First phase भी जो थी वो आपस में divided थी, उसमें भी changes आ रहे थे. लेकिन एक चीज इससे ये तय हो जाती है. One thing is very clear, that to the modern historians, the entire 50 years of Akbar's reign were not uniform. जो आज अकबर जाने जाते, that usually, generally speaking, Akbar is considered as a very liberal, non-discriminating king who followed a policy which catered to the needs of all. This is the generally held view, or sometimes in the textbooks or in the general perception of the people, ऐसा लगता है कि पहले दिन से जैसे ही अकबर थ्रोन पे आके बैठे थे, तो वो बहुत लिबरल आदमी थे। आप में से ज्यादातर ने जो अकबर पे एक मूवी बनी है वो जरूर देखी होगी, जोधा अकबर। There was much controversy when that movie was being made. Ashutosh Gowarkar, who was making this movie, I must thank him that at least he had the courtesy to write to us at Aligarh. Professor Irfan Habib, Professor Shirin Moswi, and myself, uh, all three of us, naturally, इरफान साहब से हम लोग क्या मुकाबला, at the highest level they were there, लेकिन हम छोटे मोटे लोग भी बीच बीच में आशुतोष गोवारकर जब कुछ पूछते थे वो कहते थे, तो वी वुड आल्सो गिव एडवाइस. So if you look at the movie, you would still find, in spite of the fact that after all it's a movie, in one of the seminars which was conducted in Bombay, Professor Muswi was there, I was there, Ashutosh Gowarkar was there, and a very famous producer, मैं नाम भूल गया हूँ उसका, director, Bengali हैं, he was there, and we historians were arguing that you should be in fact correct in your showing the movie, and they were arguing movie is a movie, it's a story, and the stories would not go forward अगर उसमें मसाला नहीं मिलाया जाएगा. तो बहरहाल अगर आप इस मूवी को देखेंगे, मसाला है, डोंट टेक इट एज अ historical movie, it is not, it's a historical fiction. But in spite of saying all that, I would say that the period which he has shown, the earliest period, बिल्कुल वो जो दिखा रहे हैं बैरम खान के जाने के बाद का पीरियड है, where Mahamanaga, and then the Turani revolts, the first revolt which takes place by the Turanis, Mirza Sharfuddin, that is depicted out there, and to quite a large extent, except the liberties which they have taken, and for that matter, the basic character of Jodhbai herself is fictitious. But still, I would suggest कि जो लोग अगर अकबर के इस पॉलिसी को समझना चाहते हैं, देखना चाहते हैं, तो इस मूवी को देख लें विद द प्रोविजियो कि इस मूवी में जो एक चीज नजर आती है जो हिस्टोरिकली गलत है, वो ये है कि लगता है कि जैसे डे वन से अकबर जो है वो बिल्कुल लिबरल आदमी ना, वो अर्ली पीरियड दिखा रहे हैं और उसमें भी लिबरल उनको दिखा रहे हैं. तो उसके पहले का फेज है वो बैरम खान को उसे छोड़ के बाकी दिखाया है. एवरीथिंग विच इज लिबरल, नथिंग others have been shown. The person who is very Hindu-Muslim unity and so on and so forth. और एक जनरल परसेप्शन भी यही बनता है कि अकबर के 50 साल ऐसे ही रहे. लेकिन जब आप इफ्तार आलम खान को पढ़िए, मॉडर्न रिसर्चर्स को पढ़िए, तो लगता है कि देयर वर ग्रेजुअल शिफ्ट्स एंड चेंजेस व्हिच वर टेकिंग प्लेस. There was not a uniformity throughout his reign. There was a period when he was a very strict Muslim also. A person who was discriminating against the other faiths, following the diktats of the theologians. And that is what Iqta Alam Khan tries to argue. He says that in fact, there are three phases. In the first phase, that is a phase when his personal, beliefs are prominent. Then comes a phase when he starts changing. And the last phase, when now he has actually developed a new policy, a new viewpoint towards religion. Now, actually, if you read the sources of the period, what Ikhtar Alam Khan is trying to argue comes out to be the fact. In the initial stages, Akbar is a very devout Muslim. No doubt that he was born in a Rajput Gharana. You remember that he was left by his father and mother who had gone to Iran. He was taken care of in the initial days by the Rajput family of Amarkot. And then he was taken up by his uncle, Mirza Kamran. He was there at Kabul. He could unite with his father and mother only after Humayun returned back around 1545. So his early life was, in fact, in the hands of the wet nurses, the Rajputs, Central Asians. And then, of course, he came into contact with, after rejoining with his parents, with Bairam Khan, the Turkoman, the Persian-speaking commander who had Iranian origins. People suspect that Bairam Khan may have been a Shia. Even Akbar's mother is supposed to be related with the Safavid kings. So, in a way, he had been under various influences from very childhood. But when he takes up the government, when he assumes the kingship, during that period, he was very, very much religious, always praying all the namazes. Panjagana namaz padhne ka zamana tha unka. He would read all the namaz. He was a firm believer in whatever the theologians would tell him. Sheikh Abdul Nabi, Abdullah Sultan Puri, they were the principal influences over him. And it was during this period that we find Akbar discriminating against both the Shias and Sunnis. I won't go into the details of that, but just as a matter of record, we find that once when a Shia theologian died and was buried near the grave of Amir Khusro in the Hazrat Nizamuddin area, in the same vicinity as Nizamuddin Aulia's tomb, some Sunni theologians, they objected that how can a heretic be buried near the saint? Akbar ordered the body to be exhumed and thrown out. That was also the period when the Mehdavis were being persecuted. In fact, Sheikh Mubarak, the father of Abul Fazl and Faizi, he was a Mehdavi. His house was attacked. His madrasa was thought to be a center of Mehdavism. His musalla, the Janamas, where he was praying, were thrown out. So on and so forth. There are many such cases of discrimination. which were taking place during this earlier phase. But then in 1561, Akbar had a liaison with Bharamal of Amer. And the first marriage alliance is he marries the daughter of Bharamal. And with that, the Rajputs start making an entry into his court. As a result of the Kachwahas, Bharamal, joining Mughal service, because after this marriage alliance, Bharamal was also made a Mansabdar and then given a Jagir. Amer was confirmed as a Watan. He emerged both as a Watan Jagirdar as well as one of the important courtiers of Akbar. And soon after, by 1563, we find that a number of other Rajput households started marrying their daughters to the Mughals. A number of such alliances start taking place. In 1563, as a concession to that, पर्सनल तो इनकी बिलीफ जो थी वो मैंने आपको बता दी क्या थी, लेकिन pragmatic approach ये थी कि now that the non-Muslims are in the court, he has to do something to retain them. Possibly at this moment of time, Akbar was not actually secular by heart, secular in the sense of that century. But it was the real politic. अब जब कोर्ट में हैं, तो आपके दरबारी हैं, आपके सामने बैठे हुए हैं, आपके घर में भी हैं, तो अब कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा ना, आपकी अपनी पर्सनल बिलीफ्स जो भी हो. And thus we find that in 1563, the pilgrimage tax was remitted. Those non-Muslims who were going for pilgrimage to Mathura and other religious places, they were now exempted from paying the pilgrimage tax. Remember that the theologians are very prominent in the court. Sheikh Abdul Nabi and Abdullah Sultan Puri, who are discriminating against the Mahdavis, the Shias, the Hindus. They are being revered like anything during this period. They report that Raja Todarmal, one of the Hindus in the court, who is also the Diwan, छुपा के लाते हैं और जब मौका मिलता है तो उसकी पूजा करते हैं. It was reported. And it was expected by these theologians that Akbar would go on Todarmal for this. What does Akbar do? He just smiles off and says, Mal is Sada law. He's a simpleton. Just ignore him. मेरे उस्ताद प्रोफेसर एम अथर अली इस वाक़े को सुना के बड़े सिंपैथेटिकली सुनाया करते थे कि अकबर दिल से कैसा था कि वो उनको सादा लॉ कह के टाल देता है, कहता है नहीं नहीं सिंपलेटन है, बेचारे मानते हैं, मानने दीजिए. लेकिन 1564 the jizya is reimposed. In 1568 the Fathnama Chittor, and in this Fathnama the language is as venomous as it can be. The Chittor warfare is depicted as a jihad fought against the Kafirs. Akbar is supposed to be the Mujahid. And all type of religious terminology is used. Scholars like Irfan Habib, scholars like Professor Shirin Muswi, scholars like Professor Ishtiaq Ahmad Zilli, Ishtiaq Hussain Zilli, uh, they all go to argue that one should not be surprised at the Fathnama, because Fathnama is a type of a legal document, and all legal documents have a particular language in which they are drafted. So one should not read much in it. अब जो भी है, अगर फतेहनामा की एक पर्टिकुलर लैंग्वेज है और उसी को फॉलो किया गया, क्योंकि वही लैंग्वेज आपको उस फतेहनामा में भी मिलेगी जो बाबर ने इशू किया था खनवा के बाद, उसमें भी उसी रिलीजियस लैंग्वेज को इन्वोक किया गया था, शेख जैन का जो ड्राफ्टेड था। तो वही जिल्ली साहब पॉइंट आउट करते हैं कि अगर आप कंपेयर कर लीजिए तो सवाए ये कि डेट्स और तारीखें और कुछ इंसिडेंट्स और नाम फर्क हैं, बाकी सब उसका मतन जो है, जो लैंग्वेज, जो स्टाइल है, जो डॉक्यूमेंट की होती है, वो वही लैंग्वेज को इस्तेमाल किया गया। तो इसलिए कोई खास बात नहीं है, ये तो एक तरीका था इशू करने का। जब एक कॉन्क्वेस्ट होती थी तो दिस वाज दी, एंड आई हैड एक्चुअली आर्ग्यूड विद यू इन द प्रीवियस लेक्चर के जो टर्म काफिर है और जो टर्म मुजाहिद है और जिहाद है, इनको टू बी दैट रिलीजियस सेंस जो जिससे हम एक्चुअली आज समझते हैं। But then I would ask you a question. Granted that this was so, लेकिन क्या चित्तौड़ के बाद 1564 के बाद कोई और राजपूतों के या किसी और के खिलाफ कोई अकबर ने ऐसी जंग नहीं जीती जिसमें फतेहनामा फिर इशू होता और वही लैंग्वेज का इस्तेमाल होता? इसके बाद तो नहीं हुआ। So, but this is used, and as I said, that in 1564, jizya had been reimposed once again. In 1570, there is a farman which is issued to Qazi Abdul Samad. फरमान या डॉक्यूमेंट या कोई ऑर्डर जो निकलता है वो किसी ना किसी के नाम पे निकलेगा ना। So it is a farman which is in the name of Qazi Abdul Samad. And who's Qazi Abdul Samad? He is the Muhtasib of Bilgram, the censor of Bilgram, Muhtasib of Bilgram. And there, according to this farman, orders are being issued that see to it that idol worship does not take place. तो अभी तो आप टोडरमल को 1563 में आप ये कह के टाल रहे थे कि वो तो सादा लॉ है, सिंपलिटन है, पूजा करने दीजिए, क्या फर्क पड़ता है। और बिलग्राम में आप ये डॉक्यूमेंट निकालते हैं। Now, I'm not saying that was a general order. It was not a general order. It was confined to a particular place. There might have been certain reasons for the issuance, but jizya was imposed on all. What I am trying to hint at is, and what Ikhtar Alam Khan tried to hint at was, that during this period, there were, in fact, ups and downs. अभी कोई नतीजे पे नहीं पहुंचा गया, अभी कन्विक्शन नहीं है किसी लिए, अंदर से अभी रिलीजन मौजूद है। जो कभी अंदर से ख्याल आता है तो माफ भी कर देते हैं, या पॉलिटिकल एक्सपीडियंसी देखते हैं तो माफ कर देते हैं, पॉलिटिकल एक्सपीडियंसी देखते हैं तो दोबारा से लगा देते हैं, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ। लेकिन we would see that there was a time when after that no such fluctuation was then visible at all. Now what happened during this period when these fluctuations are taking place and Akbar is coming into contact more and more with the non-Muslims after his marriage alliances with Rajputs? We know that in 1567 another thing had happened. All of you remember, all those who attended my class, that between 62 to 67 there were a large number of revolts. Revolts by whom? By the senior nobles. Who were these senior nobles? They were Central Asians, Turks, Turanis. Vincent Smith, that is why, calls these revolts, which are around 6-7 in number, and mostly by senior nobles who are also Turanis. Actually, some are not, but generally speaking, they are Turanis. And that is why there were Turanis. एक ही ग्रुप था जो डोमिनेट करता था और डिक्टेट करता था हुमायूं को, वही प्रॉब्लम थी। हुमायूं जब वापस आए थे, नाउ दैट ही हैड कम विद certain other groups. For example, the Iranis were there, the Afghans were there. He had also started recruiting certain other people. तो थोड़ा सा चेंज आना शुरू हुआ था। लेकिन जब अकबर रूल संभालता है, जो फर्स्ट फेज उसका कहला रहा है, जिसमें हम ये देख रहे हैं, इस पीरियड में एटलीस्ट 1560-61 तक ज्यादातर, एंड आफ्टर द इंसिडेंट ऑफ महामनगा एंड अदम खां, suddenly by 1567 Akbar is able to control them. But between 1564 to 67, Akbar is now forced, due to these rebellions, to recruiting other elements. अभी जैसे मैंने बताया कि एक नया ग्रुप भारामल और कछवाहाज और फिर जो राजपूत उनके कांटेक्ट में आए थे। फॉर एग्जांपल 1562 onwards, the Rajputs are taken into service, and by 1567 they emerge as a group, an equilibrium. Apart from that, as the Turani revolts keep on taking place, to deal with them, Akbar started recruiting Iranis, first as commanders and then ultimately giving them positions. And by 1567, when the Turani revolts end, now we have a nobility which has Turanis, Iranis, Rajputs, Indian Shahzadas, so on and so forth. So now we can say that as a result of all the which is emerging, all type of people, Shia, Sunni, Hindu, Muslim, all type of people are now coming into existence. और एक अच्छा खासा चंक है, अगर आप इस वक्त इनकी पूरी नोबिलिटी उठा के देखें तो मुसलमानों में ईरानी और तुरानी बहुत पोजीशन रख रहे हैं, काफी बड़ा ग्रुप है। इंडियन शहजादास का भी अच्छा खासा ग्रुप है, और फिर एक साइजेबल चंक है जो अब राजपूतों का जो है, जो एक तरीके से बैलेंसिंग एक्ट कर रहे हैं उन बाहर वालों के ऊपर, which emerges. And now when all of them are there, we come to know that there are a large number of intellectual, give and take, the influences of various philosophies, the indigenous philosophies, which start affecting the emperor. Now, there are two types of influences which we start getting on the person of Akbar. One, the influence of pantheism. We will come to what pantheism is. Actually, there is something which is known as monotheism. There is something which is known as monism. And there is something where there is a belief in a number of gods. Theism means belief in God. Pantheism is a term which is applied to both the Bhakti movement as well as the type of Sufism which entered into India. Mysticism, in the form of the Chishtiya order, for example. There were many groups of, Sufis who entered into India. Some of them were pantheistic, some of them were not. But the typical influential Sufis who had come to India were the Chishtiyas, the Chishtis, the Sohravardis. These two were very important before the coming of the Mughals. So whether it is the Bhakti movement or the Sufi movement, which is in fact earlier than Akbar, but it is leaving an impact on the Indian society, which now would be imbibed by Akbar when he started recruiting the indigenous elements. And then, apart from both these, another influence which started coming on Akbar, because that was also a contemporary influence, हालांकि कुछ लोग उसे पैंथीज्म के अंडर में रखते हैं, the Mahdavism, the concept of the Messiah. So these are some of the influences which start coming and shaping the personality and thinking of Akbar. It was but natural. It was all an indirect influence which was shaping the person and views of Emperor Akbar. Let us first deal with Bhakti. मैं बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाऊंगा क्योंकि हम लोग अभी अकबर तक पहुंचे हैं और चौथा लेक्चर ये चल रहा है, अब तक हम लोग जहां पहुंचना था वहां नहीं पहुंच पाए, बहुत स्लो चल रहे हैं, बट स्टिल आई वुड इन फैक्ट डील विद दिस बिकॉज जब तक कि आप सिलसिले से इन सब चीजों को नहीं समझिएगा, आपको जो रिलीजन और किस तरीके से रिलीजन का इस्तेमाल हिस्ट्री में हुआ या मिडिवल पीरियड में हुआ, उसको नहीं समझ पाएंगे। तो सिवाय ये करने के कि एक को हम समझ लें और उसे बगैर कुछ समझे हुए बस रट लें कि फलाने ये किया, फलाने ये किया, उससे कोई फायदा नहीं है। दैट इज व्हाई आई एम गोइंग इनटू द डिटेल्स ऑफ दिस, सो दैट you may understand how through the passage of time uh, the changes, the things kept on developing and influencing. So bhakti, what is bhakti? Bhakti simply means devotion, love. फला का भक्त, आजकल हम लोग बहुत टर्म यूज करते हैं। किसी ने कहा घंटा बजाओ बालकनी पे खड़े होके, क्योंकि हम उनके भक्त हैं तो सड़क पे भी नाच नाच के बजाना चाहिए, जो कहा है उसे फॉलो करना। भक्ति, जहां आप बगैर सोचे समझे अपने फुल एग्जिस्टेंस को उस पर समा देते हैं उठा के। यू सबमर्ज योर ओन पर्सनैलिटी इनटू दैट जिसके आप भक्त हैं। डिवोशन, फुल डेडिकेशन एंड डिवोशन इज नोन एज भक्ति। सिर्फ किसी को मान लेना नहीं, हालांकि साहब बहुत अच्छे हैं लेकिन बात गलत करते हैं, यू नॉट अ भक्त। भक्ति मीन्स वेयर देयर इज 100% डिवोशन, and 100% devotion in bhakti is nothing but love. Krishna bhakti, for example, or Ram bhakti, a love which comes from inside, where you are one with the person who is your beloved. Now, this concept of bhakti is initially derived from the Upanishads. This is an Upanishadic philosophy. ये कोई नई फिलॉसफी नहीं थी, लेकिन एक्चुअली इस पीरियड में 14th सेंचुरी 13th सेंचुरी ऑनवर्ड्स, इनफैक्ट अगर आप उसे देखें तो 7th 8th सेंचुरी ऑनवर्ड्स इसने डेवलप करना शुरू कर दिया था, लेकिन जो बेस है इसका वो उपनिषदिक लिटरेचर पे जाके मिलता है। Now, according to the Upanishads, I'll give you very basic examples of that. According to the Upanishads, if you take a glass of water and you take some measure of salt, एक पुड़िया सॉल्ट ले लीजिए, एक सॉल्ट है, ये पानी है। Now you put this salt into the water and mix it. What would be the result? Can you see the salt? Is it there? Is there? How can you find it? दो अलग अलग मटेरियल थे, एक दूसरे में जब डाले गए तो एक अचानक गायब हो गया, उसमें मिल गया। इसको कैसे पहचानेंगे? बाय टेस्ट। जब आप उसको चखेंगे तो पता चलेगा हाँ इसमें नमक है। Take a drop of water. It's a drop of water. The drop of water falls into a river. Is the drop there? It is there, but now a part of the river. अब आप उसमें से उसी कतरे को दोबारा नहीं निकाल सकते, उसमें जम हो गया, मिल गया। In this river, for example, the river Ganga, when it would fall into the ocean, where is the river? It is the part of the ocean itself. This was the Upanishadic philosophy, that there is only one existence, the existence of God. You, me, everyone else have no existence of their own. We are nothing but God. There is only one truth, and the truth is God. This was exemplified. This Upanishadic philosophy was ultimately exemplified by Shankar, 8th century, 9th century. According to Shankar, the whole world which you see around you, even you yourself, you have no existence. You are a Maya. Maya, a mirage. There is only one truth, and that is God. कुछ और नहीं है. एक हकीकत है जो ईश्वर है, उसके अलावा कुछ भी नहीं. सब झूठ, सब माया, दिखावा है. Now there is a famous episode which is narrated. कहानियां बन जाती हैं. Story about Shankar. I don't know whether it's true or not. I read it somewhere in a book which dealt with Shankar's philosophy. So I found it interesting, and in fact, that is something through which you can understand this pantheism. That once Shankar was in a village telling his disciples who had gathered around him that everything you see is a Maya, illusion, nothing else. The only fact is God, nothing. And while he was delivering that speech, one of the detractors of Shankar suddenly shouted that a bull was attacking from behind the hillock. पहाड़ी के पीछे से एक बुल आ रहा है, चार्ज कर रहा है. People started running. भगदड़ मच गई. Shankar also started running. And when Shankar also started running to save his life, this detractor called Shankar, Shankar, why are you running? Just now you were telling that everything is a Maya, is an illusion. तो अब illusion से डर के भाग रहे हो. So, Shankar stopped, looked towards him, and replied, my friend, my running away is also a Maya. This is also an illusion. मैं भी भाग नहीं रहा था, ये भी एक illusion. Everything is God, and there is no real existence. This is what Shankar taught. It is said that this philosophy of Bhakti which started developing from 10th century onwards, actually started developing after the Indians came into contact with the Muslims. अब एक्चुअली भक्ति मूवमेंट उनसे इन्फ्लुएंस हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, जो अरब ट्रेडर्स आ रहे थे उनका कितना असर था कि नहीं था, there can be a difference of opinion, but fact remains that where as far as Muslims are concerned, all of you would have recited this ayat of the Quran again and again. Whenever you hear someone has died, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It is to God we belong and it is to him that we return. खुदा से निकले हैं, खुदा में जा मिले. इसीलिए मुसलमानों में डेथ को खत्म होना नहीं कहते हैं, इंतकाल कहते हैं. Migrated from this life and went to God. So how far did, probably there were two independent developments which were taking place. Now, the period of Akbar, the 16th century, you can say a period just before Akbar, 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, is the period when there is much development in these pantheistic thoughts in the country, both among Muslims and the non-Muslims. The Bhakti and the Sufi movement both are at prominence in the period prior to Akbar. Now, for example, the famous Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Bengal, Vallabhacharya, Kabir Das, Ravi Das, Ram Das, Namdev, Gyaneshwar, Sant Tukaram, Guru Nanak, they are all those who are influencing the Indians in the period just before Akbar. Their philosophies, for example, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, Chaitanya movement, by Akbar's period is gaining peaks. It has come to establish in the Mathura region. Kabir Panthis, Nanak Panthis, and who doesn't know about Tulsi Das writing Ramcharitramanas? He's a contemporary of Akbar. In fact, he's a senior. Continues up till this period. Surdas is a contemporary of Akbar. He is living during the period of Akbar. तो कृष्ण भक्ति जो है वो इस पीरियड में डेवलप कर रही है मथुरा के रीजन में. तुलसीदास, अयोध्या वाला पूरा रीजन जो है, द राम कल्ट इज डेवलपिंग ड्यूरिंग द, राम की इंपॉर्टेंस ही अकबर के पीरियड में बढ़ी है, कृष्ण की इंपॉर्टेंस अकबर के पीरियड में बढ़ी है, दोनों इस पीरियड में उभर के सामने आते हैं. There is another work which I would refer to you which deals with such saints, which shows that किस टाइप का था अकबर का पीरियड. जाहिर है कि जब आगरा और दिल्ली और इस पूरे पीरियड के आसपास ये सब फैलाव में इस टाइप की फिलोसफीज बढ़ रही होंगी तो असर तो आना ही आना है. देयर इज a tradition which has now been published as a collection. It has also been translated into English. 84 वैष्णवा की वार्ता. These are the varta of episodes, happenings of the Vaishnava saints. Or if you read that now, it is available in English. There are certain saints who claim that they have met Akbar. This is all mythical. But they claim कि अकबर के पास गए, अकबर ने उनको बुलाया और ये बात की और यूं ठुकराया और ये किया. Whether they met or not, the fact remains that these are the movements which are taking place during this period. The whole, movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Vrindavan area. This is the period when the Chaitanya saints are being given grants by Akbar. ये सिर्फ assumption नहीं है कि they were knowing each other. In fact, there are grants which were being given, temples which were being made and maintained by Akbar himself for the Chaitanya saints. So we know that these are some of them. Apart from these Bhakti saints and movements, I have named some of them. I'm not going into the details of their teachings or what type of, but remember that all of them were teaching pantheism, monism. एक खुदा को मानना, वो मोनोथीज्म. और मोनिज्म, where there is belief, अभी जैसे शंकर का मैंने आपको बताया था, there is nothing but oneness. There is just existence of God and nothing else. That is monism, the purest form of monotheism. Now, during the same period, 14th century onwards, among the Muslims, the same type of trends we find developing. For example, the Chishtis, and then under Akbar we have the Naqshbandis. Shattariyas हैं और सोहरावर्दियाज हैं और ये हैं टाइप के हैं, लेकिन मेजर जो है वो ये है कि जो सल्तनत पीरियड में बिफोर अकबर, जो चिश्तीज जो मौजूद हैं एक पैंथीस्टिक फिलॉसफी के साथ. एंड ड्यूरिंग दिस पीरियड we find that the philosophy of Ibn al-Arabi starts entering into the country. 14th century onwards, at least. I'm not going into the details of who Ibn al-Arabi was. He was one of the greatest mystics of Islam. He is known for a philosophy which is known as Wahdatul Wujud. Incidentally, अगर आपको थोड़ा बहुत mythically सही, लेकिन इब्न अल अरबी क्या थे और किस टाइप के थे और क्या था, तो एक आजकल एक सीरियल चल रहा है जो यूट्यूब पे भी पड़ा हुआ है और नेटफ्लिक्स पे भी है. टर्किश सीरियल है एल तुगरुल. उसमें इब्न अल अरबी को एज अ हिस्टोरियन आई वुड से कि वो जाहिर है कि एक सीरियल है, लेकिन the type of mystical approach and type of influence which he was having on the ruling class of Central Asia and then ultimately India अब ये सीरियल तो नहीं इंडिया से डील करता है तो सिर्फ ऑटोमन्स के लिए, लेकिन you would be introduced to the personality of Ibn al-Arabi. Now, Ibn al-Arabi was a proponent of a philosophy which is known as Wahdatul Wujud. Wahdat, one, Wujud, existence. By Shankar. The only difference was कि यहाँ जो वहदतुल वजूद है, that is derived from the Quran. इन्ना लिल्लाहि व इन्ना इलैहि राजिऊन. खुदा से निकले हैं, खुदा में जा मिलेंगे. मैं हक हूं, हक मीन्स गॉड. मार दिया था उसको थियोलॉजियंस ने. वो कुफ्र नहीं बोल रहा था, वो इसी इब्न अल अरबी की फिलॉसफी को बोल रहा था. कोई हमारा आपका कोई एग्जिस्टेंस नहीं है सिवाय खुदा के. वही शंकर की फिलॉसफी, वही कुरान की फिलॉसफी. उसके बरक्स उस पीरियड में एक और फिलॉसफी थी जो मुगल एम्पायर में बहुत नहीं थी, तो आई वोंट बी रेफरिंग मच टू इट. वहदतुश शुहूद, परसेप्शन. मैं और मेरा साया. अब आप मुझे देख रहे हैं और पीछे ये हिलता हुआ जैसे मैं सर घुमाता हूं तो आपको मेरा साया नजर आता है. क्या मैं और ये मेरा साया एक है? आपने अगर मेरे साये को छुआ तो क्या आपने मुझे छू लिया? नहीं. साया अलग है, मैं अलग हूं. वाकई अगर मैं नहीं तो मेरा साया नहीं. The shadow can never be there without the truth. But the shadow is not the truth. It is a perception of the truth. Where is the shuhud? Well, it was based on the philosophy of Ibn al-Arabi that we find that the concept of insan kamil was developed. Now it is something which would naturally take time for us के उसको अंडरस्टैंड करें और बिल्कुल सिंपल टर्म्स में शॉर्ट में बताता हुआ चलूंगा, हालांकि काफी देर हो गई है. कि जो डॉट है दैट सरमाइजेस एवरीथिंग. हर चीज कन्वर्ज करके वहां. तो ऑल दोज हु आर मुस्लिम्स मस्ट हैव हर्ड के एक बड़ी फेमस सेइंग है मुस्लिम्स कि अगर पूरे कुरान को आप नहीं पढ़ सकते तो सूरह हमद को पढ़ लीजिए. जो कुछ सूरह हमद में है वो पूरा कुरान में है, और जो कुछ सूरह हमद में है वो बिस्मिल्लाह में है, और जो कुछ बिस्मिल्लाह में है और इज द परफेक्ट. माल है. तो इंसान जो उसमें भी कुछ ऐसे होते हैं जो कभी कभी कुछ कुछ सदियों में पैदा होते हैं, हमेशा नहीं पैदा होते. ऑल द गुड्स आर विद इन देम. इंसान कामिल. Among the Sufis, the Insan Kamil is also known as Qutub, the pole star. So this, and he's a perfect man, Insan Kamil. बिल्कुल खुदा के अंदाज में, कोई उसमें कमी और जाती नहीं होती, जो है वो है. The concept of इंसान कामिल was coming from Iran, and it was influencing the Indian subcontinent during this period of time. The man is the microcosm of the one. जो खुदा है उसकी हर सिफत सिमट के इसके अंदर आ गई, ये नुक्ते की तरह. And this was the basis of the concept of Mahdi, the Redeemer, a concept which is there among the Muslims, a concept which was fine-tuned among the Shias. The concept of Mahdi is very much there. The concept of Mahdi is there even among the Sunnis. The only difference between the two is that the Mahdi, the Insan Kamil, is born but hidden from us. उसको पैदा नहीं होना, पैदा हो चुका है, अल्लाह की मर्जी से गायब है, जिस वक्त अल्लाह चाहेगा वो नमूदार हो जाएगा. So that is why the Mahdavi movement did not take place among the Shias. Among the Sunnis, the Mahdi is to be born. So we find that after every few centuries, खास तौर से जब मिलेनियम का पीरियड था, Akbar's period was a period of millennium, when 1000 Hijra had been completed. So that was the period when there was a need of a redeemer. The Mahdi would be born, the Insan Kamil would be born. So we find that this concept of redeemer, for example, in 1592 was the period, Akbar ke period, 1592, when 1000 Sane Ilah 1000 year had been completed. And we find that in India, there were certain people who took up the claim of being a Mahdi. For example, in 1505, just before Akbar, Sayyid Muhammad Jaunpuri declared himself as the Mahdi, which ultimately came to be known as Roshanne movement. He also declared himself that he was the redeemer of the age. Naturally, all this philosophy was going to affect the philosophy of Akbar. In 1570s, Sheikh Tajuddin, he introduced Ibn al-Arabi's philosophy to the Mughal court. अब ये नहीं था कि सिर्फ आवाम से. Sheikh Mubarak, the father of Abul Fazl and Faizi, he was a practicing Mahdavi. उसके बारे में कहा जाता है कि शिया थे और ये थे और वो थे. He was a Mahdavi, a person who believed in the coming of Mahdi. He also was a proponent of the viewpoint of Ibn al-Arabi, क्योंकि पूरा philosophy वहीं से Ibn al-Arabi से नुक्ते से निकली हुई थी. He was also नूर, नूर अला नूर, हर चीज जो है वो सिर्फ नूर है. इसे अकबर क्या व्यूज में देखेंगे, अंधेरा होता है. He is the light. He is the light of God, light emanating from God. So that it was influence of an Iranian philosophy, the Ishraqi philosophy of Shahabuddin Makhtul. Now, all these philosophies, whether being brought by the Central Asians and the Iranians who were coming to the court, or the Hindu indigenous nobility who was now coming to the court with the influences of the Bhakti, Mathura, Agra, Awadh region were the central regions of the Mughal empire during the period of Akbar, and these were the hotbeds of Bhakti movement. These were also the regions every one of you know about Sheikh Salim Chishti, the Sufi Chishti saint who influenced Akbar. So all these influences were coming on Akbar during this period of time. उसके अपने जो प्रीडिलेक्शंस थे, कट्टर एक तरीके से मुसलमान, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ में ये सारे इन्फ्लुएंसेस जो हैं वो अकबर इनडायरेक्टली और डायरेक्टली इम्बाइब करता चला जा रहा है. And all that resulted in a shifting of his views. In the lecture which we would be holding tomorrow, we would go and discuss how Akbar, under such influences, he started holding religious discussions. And these religious discussions once again led to a change in his views and ideas. So let us wait for tomorrow when we would be dealing with this.